Let me tell you something. I had been living in that building for almost a year. Almost a year of saying hello in the hallway. Almost a year of keeping it professional. Almost a year of pretending I hadn't noticed her. And then one afternoon I slid an envelope under her door, with 5 months of rent inside it. Cash. No note. Just the money. And I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Let me take you back to the beginning. About 14 months before any of this happened, I was looking for a place to live. New city, new job, no rental history here, no local references. And apparently that combination was enough to make landlords nervous. I got turned down 4 times in 3 weeks. For different apartments. For different reasons. All of them polite ways of saying, we'd rather take someone else. I was staying in a short-term rental that was eating through my savings faster than I like to think about. I needed something permanent. And then I found the listing for Caldwell Street. Ground floor unit. Well-kept building. Reasonable price. Available immediately. I messaged the number on the listing that evening. Got a reply within the hour. The landlady's name was Diane. We arranged to see the place the next morning. I showed up on time. She was already there, standing in the doorway of the unit with a set of keys in one hand, and the morning light coming through the window behind her. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't her. She was mid-30s, composed in a way that felt earned rather than performed. Dark auburn hair that fell loose around her shoulders. And this way of looking at you, like she was paying actual attention, not checking her phone, not distracted, just present. I found out over time that she was recently divorced, that the building had come to her through the settlement, that she was figuring out the landlady role mostly on her own. But standing in that doorway that first morning, I didn't know any of that. I just knew the apartment was good and I needed it. She walked me through the place, pointed out the storage, the heating controls, the way the bathroom window didn't quite latch properly, but she was having it fixed. Professional. Thorough. Then she mentioned the application process, the standard checks, references, the usual timeline, and I made a decision on the spot. I told her I'd pay 5 months up front. Cash. No drama. No negotiation. She stopped. Not dramatically. Just went still, like someone had pressed pause. She looked at me for a moment longer than the situation required, and there was something in her expression I couldn't fully read. Not suspicion, not excitement, something quieter than both of those. Then she said, "Come inside, let's talk." We sat at the kitchen table of the empty unit. She asked me a few careful questions. Why Upfront? Where I worked? How long I planned to stay? I answered all of them honestly. New job, solid company, no plans to leave soon. The upfront payment was because I knew my lack of local history made me a risk on paper, and I'd rather remove the risk than argue about it. She listened to all of it. Then she nodded once, folded her hands on the table, and said, "All right, I can work with that." I moved in the following weekend, and for the next several months, we were exactly what we were supposed to be, tenant and landlady. She checked in once about the heating. I messaged her when the kitchen tap started dripping. We passed each other in the hallway and said hello. Sometimes exchanged a few words. Nothing more. The building was small, only 6 units, so you couldn't really avoid running into people. But we kept it easy, light, appropriate. That was the arrangement. That was how it was. And I told myself I was fine with that. I was mostly telling myself the truth. If stories like this stay with you, the real, slow, emotional kind, subscribe to the channel. New stories every week. Now let's get back to where things got complicated. The first crack in the professional arrangement was small. So small I almost didn't notice it. It was a Sunday morning. I was heading out and she was coming in through the front door carrying 3 boxes stacked so high she couldn't really see over them. I held the door. Then I took 2 of the boxes without asking. She looked at me from behind the third one. You don't have to do that. I know, I said. We carried them up to the small storage room off the lobby. When we set them down, she brushed a piece of dust off her sleeve and said thank you without making it a big deal. Then she went upstairs. I went out. That was it. But I thought about it on the walk. The way she'd looked at me over those boxes. Surprised, but not entirely. Like she was recalibrating something. A couple of weeks later, I left a spare shelf bracket outside her apartment door. She'd mentioned to the building in a group message that she had a few shelves to hang in the communal storage room if anyone had a bracket. I had one I wasn't using. I left it with a note that just said, "Spare one. Should work." That evening there was a knock on my door. She was standing in the hallway, still in work clothes, hair still down from the day. "The bracket worked," she said. "Good. Do you want your note back?" I laughed. She almost smiled. "Thank you," she said, genuinely, and then she went back upstairs. I stood in my doorway for a second after, thinking, okay, pay attention. About a month after that, I was cooking dinner, something simple, pasta, but I'd let the steam build up and the smoke detector went off. Everything was fine, just noise and steam. But 30 seconds later, there was a knock at my door. I opened it with a dish towel in my hand. She was standing there looking slightly alarmed. "Everything all right?" I heard the alarm. "Fine," I said. "Just steam. Come in, it's already clearing." She hesitated for a second. Then she stepped inside. I went back to the stove. She stood near the kitchen doorway looking around the apartment. It was the first time she'd been inside. "Something smells good," she said. "Chicken and pasta," I said. "It's almost ready. Have you eaten?" She paused. "I was going to make toast," she said. "Sit down," I said. Another pause. Longer this time, like she was thinking through whether this was a good idea. Then she pulled out a chair at the kitchen table and sat down. The rain started about 10 minutes later. Soft at first, then heavier. It hit the window above the kitchen sink, and the sound of it filled the room in a way that made everything feel quieter somehow. We ate, we talked. She told me about the divorce. Not in a dramatic way, just honestly, like someone who had finished grieving something and was ready to say it plainly. The marriage had run out of road long before it officially ended. The building came to her through the settlement. Her ex-husband had wanted to sell it. She'd fought to keep it. "Why?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment, looked at the window, at the rain. "Because my father helped me find it," she said. "Years ago, when I was just starting out." She didn't say anything else about that. She didn't need to. I told her about my situation, the 4 rejections, the short-term rental burning through my money, why I'd offered 5 months up front. She listened to all of it without interrupting. At one point, she reached across the table for the water jug. Her arm crossed over mine where it rested on the table. She didn't pull back immediately. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. But I noticed it. And when she looked up, I think she noticed that I'd noticed. She kept talking. But something had shifted slightly in the room. "Most people in your position would have argued about the reference requirements," she said, "or offered 1 month and hoped for the best. That wasn't going to work," I said. "I needed you to feel secure taking a chance on me." She looked at me steadily. "And what did you need?" she said. "The apartment," I said. She tilted her head slightly. "Just the apartment?" The question sat there. I didn't answer it directly. She didn't push. But the silence between us felt full. She stayed until almost 10, which surprised me. I don't think it was what she'd planned. When she finally stood to leave, she picked up her phone from the counter and paused at the kitchen doorway. She looked back at the room, at the table, at me. "This was nice," she said quietly. "It was," I said. "Thank you for not letting me eat toast." I laughed. She smiled. A real one. the kind that reached her eyes and made something in my chest do a thing I wasn't ready to examine. She said goodnight. I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, and I stood in my kitchen for a while after. The rain still going, the table still warm with where we'd been sitting, thinking, I'm in trouble. After that evening things shifted in a way that was hard to name but impossible to miss. We still kept it professional on the surface. She was still my landlady. I was still her tenant. But there were dinners that happened more regularly than accidentally. Conversations in the hallway that went 15 minutes longer than they needed to. One evening we walked to the corner shop together and took the long way back without either of us suggesting it. We just didn't turn when we should have, and neither of us said anything about it. She was guarded in certain places. I understood that. The divorce was recent enough that she was still working out who she was on the other side of it. What she wanted. What she was allowed to want. But she was present in a way that meant something. When she was there, she was really there. And sometimes in the middle of completely ordinary conversations, she'd look at me with an expression that lingered a second past where it was supposed to stop. And I'd feel it for the rest of the day. One evening in late autumn, we got caught in a downpour on the way back from a corner shop run. Neither of us had a proper jacket. We ducked into a doorway on Caldwell Street about 20 feet from the building entrance. Just standing there, watching the rain. Her shoulder was pressed against mine. The street empty. The water coming off the awning above us in a steady line. She was laughing a little at the situation. Not a big laugh. Just that quiet, warm sound she made when something struck her as genuinely funny. We are literally 20 feet from the door, she said. 20 very wet feet, I said. She laughed again and leaned slightly further into my shoulder. I didn't move. I didn't want to. We stood there for maybe 5 minutes, long after the rain had eased enough to make a run for it. Neither of us suggesting we go. I kept thinking, just say something. Just say the obvious thing. But I didn't, and she didn't, and we eventually walked back inside. Wet, still laughing slightly, going our separate ways at the staircase. I should have said something then. I know that now, but I was still figuring out how much of it was in my head. And I didn't want to be wrong about this. I really didn't want to be wrong. It was a Tuesday evening when it finally happened. A loose fitting on the bathroom cabinet. I'd mentioned it briefly a few weeks earlier, not as a complaint, just in passing. She knocked on my door that evening with her toolkit. Said she'd been meaning to sort it. I said I could have fixed it myself. She said she knew, and came in anyway. We were in a small bathroom, her crouched in front of the cabinet, me leaning against the door frame, watching her work with a focus that I found difficult not to find interesting. She had good hands. The kind of person who actually knows how to use tools. Doesn't hesitate. Doesn't overcomplicate things. At one point she needed to test the hinge from the other side. She reached past me where I was standing, and her hand closed over mine on the cabinet door. We both went still. I mean completely still. She looked up. We were close. The bathroom was small and we were close, and she was looking at me with those steady eyes, and the distance between us was not a professional distance at all. She held my gaze, and then she said, I know you want to ask me something. Her voice was calm, direct, not teasing, just honest. So don't make it into a whole thing, she said. Just ask. I looked at her. Have dinner with me, I said. Not as neighbors. A beat. A long one. She looked at me for a moment that felt like it lasted much longer than it actually did. Then she said, okay. Just okay. No drama. No speech. Just okay. And somehow that was better than anything more elaborate would have been. We had dinner that Friday, at a small Italian place about a 10-minute walk from the building. Nothing fancy. Good food. Good wine. And 2 hours that passed like 20 minutes. She talked about what she wanted the next few years to look like. Now that things had settled from the divorce. Now that the building felt like hers again. She wanted to travel. She had a list of places, had been adding to it for years without ever quite making the first trip. "What's at the top?" I asked. "Portugal," she said immediately. "Every time I think about it, I move it back to the top." "What's stopping you?" She looked at her glass. "It felt like the kind of trip you take with someone," she said. "And for a while there wasn't anyone." She said it simply, not for sympathy, just because it was true. I said, "And now?" She looked at me, smiled slightly. "I'm working on it." We walked back afterward. The night was cold enough that you could see your breath. She had her coat collar up and her hands in her pockets. We walked close, not touching, but close. At the building door she stopped and looked up at me. "I had a good time," she said. "Me too," I said. She held my gaze for a second. Then she reached out and straightened my jacket collar. Lightly, almost casually, like it was a reflex, like she'd done it 100 times. Then she seemed to realize what she'd done, and she looked slightly surprised at herself. "Sorry," she said. "Don't be," I said. A beat. Then she went inside, and I stood at the door for a moment, hand at my collar where her fingers had been, thinking, okay, this is real. This is actually happening. Over the next few weeks things moved slowly, which felt right. Neither of us was in a rush. We had dinner a few more times, took walks in the evening when the weather was decent, sat in her apartment one Sunday afternoon reading in the same room, her on the chair by the window with a book, me on her sofa with mine, comfortable in a way that felt like it had taken much longer than a few weeks to earn. She rested her feet near my leg on the sofa, not on me, just near, like the proximity mattered without needing to be stated. I didn't say anything. I just stayed exactly where I was. There was a Wednesday evening where we cooked together in her kitchen. Her apartment was bigger than mine, better equipped. She knew what she was doing with food in a way that was fun to cook alongside. We kept bumping into each other in the narrow kitchen, reaching past each other for things. At one point I was checking something in the oven and she came to look over my shoulder. She was close enough that I could feel the warmth of her. Her hand rested briefly on my back as she leaned in to look. She removed it after a moment, went back to what she was doing. But she was smiling to herself as she stirred the sauce. And I let myself feel something I'd been trying to manage carefully for weeks. Something that felt a lot like happiness. I should have known it couldn't stay simple for long. About 6 weeks in, I ran into one of the other tenants in the lobby. A woman from the top floor named Mrs. Albright. 60s, sharp, nice enough but observant in the way people get when they've lived in a building long enough to consider it their territory. She looked at me with an expression I didn't love. "Saw you going upstairs again last night," she said. "Bit late, wasn't it?" "We had dinner," I said. She said. And that was it. But the way she said it sat with me. The following week Diane called me. I answered and she went straight to it. No preamble. "I need to tell you something and I need you to stay calm." "Okay," I said. "Mrs. Albright contacted the Building Association board," she said. "She raised concerns about my relationship with a tenant." My stomach dropped. "They're requesting a meeting," she said. "An official one." "Diane." "I know," she said. "I know. Just let me think." There was a silence on the line. I could hear her breathing, steady, controlled, but underneath it something that wasn't. "How serious is this?" I asked. "It depends on how they want to play it," she said. "The bylaws are old, but they're real. Relationships between landlords and tenants create what they call a conflict of interest and a power imbalance. But we're both adults," I said, "who make their own decisions." "I know that," she said, "but that's not always how these things get framed." Another silence. "What do you need from me?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. "I need a day to talk to my lawyer," she said. "And I need you to not worry about this." Diane, I'm serious. I will handle it. I know you will, I said. That's not the same as me not caring what happens to you. A pause. Longer than the others. I know, she said quietly. I'll call you tomorrow. She hung up. I sat in my apartment, the building suddenly very quiet around me, thinking about everything she'd built here, what this place meant to her, her father, the settlement, all of it, and the fact that knowing me was now putting pressure on every single part of it. I thought, maybe I should offer to leave. Maybe that's the right thing. But I thought about her straightening my collar at the door, her feet on the sofa cushion near my leg, the way she'd said okay in that bathroom like it was the simplest word in the world. And I couldn't make myself make that call. The board meeting was set for the following week. 7 days of Diane being careful on the phone, measured, professional, working through it with her lawyer. I gave her the space she needed, but every day felt long in a way I wasn't used to. The night before the meeting, she knocked on my door. Late, almost 11. She had her coat still on from being out, hair slightly windblown, tired in a way she was trying to hold together. She said, "Can I come in for a bit?" "Of course," I said. She sat on my sofa. I made tea, brought it over and sat beside her. She held the mug in both hands, stared at nothing for a moment. "I've been turning this over all week," she said. "I know," I said. "I keep thinking about what's at risk," she said. "And then I think about what I'd be giving up to protect it." She looked at me. "And the maths doesn't work out," she said. "In favor of which option?" I said quietly. She held my gaze. "You," she said. "The maths works out in favor of you." We sat in the quiet of that for a moment. Then she leaned her head back against the sofa. I reached out and took her hand where it rested between us. She turned her palm over and held mine back. We stayed like that for a long time, not talking, just sitting, the tea going warm between our hands, the building quiet around us. And I thought, whatever happens tomorrow, this is real, this counts, and I'm not walking away from it. The next evening I sat in that meeting room, rows of chairs, tenants on one side, the board at the front, Mrs. Albright in the third row looking like she'd been preparing for this for weeks, which she probably had. The board chair was a man named Gerald Forsyth, late 50s, the kind of person who enjoys having a procedure to follow. He outlined the concern, the bylaw, the nature of the alleged conflict of interest. He was very precise about all of it, very formal. Then Diane stood up. She was wearing a dark blazer, hair back from her face, composed in a way that I knew cost her something to hold. She said, "Thank you for the opportunity to respond. I want to address this directly because I think that's the appropriate way to handle it." She looked around the room. "Yes, I have a personal relationship with one of the residents of this building. We are both adults. Neither of us entered into this with any intention of creating a conflict of interest or any imbalance of any kind." Gerald started to interject. She continued, "However, I understand the bylaws and I take them seriously, which is why, following consultation with my property lawyer this week, I have arranged for a licensed property manager to take over all administrative and tenancy matters for this building, effective immediately. I will retain ownership. All decisions about repairs, rent adjustments, and tenancy issues will go through that manager, not through me." The room was very quiet. "This removes any actual conflict of interest," she said, "and it means the concern you've raised no longer has grounds." Gerald looked through his papers. "The bylaw also pertains to landlords managing tenants," Diane said, "which I will no longer be doing. I've had my lawyer review this thoroughly. The arrangement I've described is compliant." Mrs. Albright said something under her breath. Someone near the front asked a question about the management transition. Diane answered it clearly. and I watched her stand there in front of a room that was looking for a reason to make this harder than it needed to be, and just not give them one. She was thorough. She was calm. She was about 10 steps ahead of all of them. The meeting broke up about 40 minutes later. Not with a clean resolution exactly. Gerald said the board would review the arrangement formally and respond in writing. But the energy in the room had shifted. She'd taken their argument apart at the structural level, and everyone in that room knew it. Outside on the front steps afterward, she stood beside me. The night air cold, the street quiet. She exhaled slowly, long, like she'd been holding it for a week. "You were incredible in there," I said. "I was terrified in there," she said. "You didn't look it." She smiled tiredly. Years of practice. I reached over without thinking, tucked a loose strand of hair back from her face. She went still, looked at me. I dropped my hand. "Sorry," I said. "Don't be," she said. Same words she'd said to me on the first night. Different doorway. Same feeling. She looked at me for a moment in the cold air. Then she said, "Come upstairs." We sat in her apartment for a long time that night. On the sofa, her leaning against me, my arm around her, just sitting, the lamp on, the city outside the window. She talked about her father, about what the building had meant to him, how he'd driven her around the city pointing out properties when she was young, explaining what made one building worth keeping and another worth letting go. "He always said the same thing," she told me. "He said, the bricks don't matter, the people in them do." She was quiet for a moment. "I think about that a lot," she said. "When things get hard with the building, it's a good way to think about it," I said. "He'd have found this whole meeting very funny," she said. "His daughter defending her relationship at a tenant board hearing. Would he have liked me?" I said. She thought about it genuinely, which I appreciated. "He'd have asked you about 300 questions," she said. "And then probably yes." I laughed quietly. She tilted her head up slightly to look at me, her eyes warm in the low light. "I'm glad you knocked on that day," she said. "To see the apartment? To stay," she said. "I'm glad you knocked to stay." I didn't have words for that, so I didn't try to find them. I just held her a little closer, and she settled in like that was exactly where she meant to be. The weeks after the meeting were a kind of exhale. The board sent their formal response. They accepted the property management arrangement. The matter was considered closed. Mrs. Albright remained frosty in the hallway. Most of the other tenants barely reacted. One of them, a young guy from the second floor named Pete, actually knocked on my door one evening just to say he thought the whole thing had been overblown from the start. "She's the best landlady this building has ever had," he said. "Bit weird that anyone would want to make trouble for her." "Agreed," I said. Diane handed the management fully over to the property firm by the end of the month, and something in her seemed to lighten after that, like she'd been carrying more than she realized. She still loved the building, still walked through it sometimes just to check on things out of habit, still knew every tenant's name and what was going on with them. But the administrative weight of it wasn't sitting on her alone anymore, and she had more time, more evenings, more ordinary days that didn't have a crisis attached. We spent a lot of them together, cooking in her kitchen, walking in the evenings, sitting in companionable quiet, getting to know each other the way you do when the pressure is off and it's just two people working out how they fit together. She was funny. That surprised me at first. Not in a performing way, just quietly funny, dry, observational. She'd say something in the middle of a completely ordinary moment and I'd be laughing before I understood why. She liked that. I could tell that she could make me laugh. One Sunday morning she made breakfast and we sat at her kitchen table for 3 hours, just talking, then reading, then talking again, the light moving across the floor as the morning went on. At some point, I looked over and she was watching me with a soft expression, like she was thinking something she hadn't decided to say yet. "What?" I said. She shook her head slightly. "Nothing." "That's not a nothing face," I said. She smiled, looked at her coffee. "I was just thinking that this is what I wanted," she said, "when I was in the middle of everything falling apart with the marriage." "What is?" I said. "This," she said simply. "Sunday morning. Someone to sit with. Nothing dramatic. Just this." I looked at her across the table. "You've got it," I said. She looked back at me. "I know," she said, and the way she said it, quiet, certain, like it was something she'd been waiting to be sure of, made me feel like whatever I'd risked to get here was worth every uncertain moment. It was almost a year after that first dinner, the smoke alarm, the pasta, the rain on the window, when she came and found me one evening in the building lobby. I was just getting back from work. She was coming down the stairs. She stopped on the bottom step, which put her at exactly my eye level. She had an envelope in her hand. She held it out. "What's this?" I said. "Open it." I opened it. Inside was a small card and a pair of plane tickets to Lisbon. I looked up at her. "You said Portugal was at the top of the list," I said. "It was," she said. "And then you moved to the top of the list." I stared at her. So I figured I should probably take both. I didn't say anything for a second. She watched my face. "Is that?" "Yes," I said. "Before you finish the question." "Yes." She smiled, big enough that it reached her eyes. Both of them. I stepped up onto the bottom stair beside her, which made me slightly taller. She tilted her face up. "You know you didn't have to do something like this," I said. "I know," she said, "but I wanted to." "Why?" She looked at me steadily. "Because you paid 5 months up front, so I'd feel safe taking a chance on you," she said. "And I wanted to do something that told you I'm taking the chance. The full one," she said. "Not just the easy part." I held the envelope in my hand, her eyes on me, the lobby quiet around us. "Diane," I said. "Yeah, I'm in love with you." She breathed in slowly. "I know," she said softly. "I'm in love with you too. I've been trying to find the right moment to say it for about 4 months." "I know that too," she said. "How?" She smiled. "Because you look at me the same way I look at you when I think you're not paying attention." I laughed. She reached up and put her hand against my jaw. Warm, steady. "I'm glad you paid 5 months up front," she said quietly. "I'm glad you let me stay," I said. We went to Lisbon 3 months later. Narrow streets, yellow trams, pastéis de nata at a tiny cafe on the second morning. She took pictures of everything. We walked until our feet hurt and then found somewhere to sit and talked for hours. She looked different there, easier. Like the city she'd been wanting to see for years was giving her something back. On the last evening, we sat on a terrace watching the sun go down over the water. She had her glass resting on the railing, her hair loose in the evening air, and she was quiet in the happy way, the full way. After a while she said, "I want to do this again. Portugal. All of it," she said. "Everywhere. With you." I reached over and took her hand on the railing. She turned her palm up and held mine back. Same way she had on my sofa that night before the meeting. Same warmth. Same certainty. "Yeah," I said. "Everywhere." We flew home 2 days later. Back to the building on Caldwell Street. Back to the small lobby and the 6 units and Mrs. Albright still giving me cautious looks in the hallway. Back to Sunday mornings at her kitchen table. And Tuesday evenings cooking. And walks that took the long way back without either of us suggesting it. I moved upstairs about 6 months after Lisbon. Gradually, a few things at a time. Until one day I noticed my books were on her shelves and my coffee was in her cupboard and there was a second set of keys on the hook by the door. And it just was no announcement, no ceremony. Just two people who'd figured out how to be in the same space without it feeling like either of them was making a compromise. I think about that first morning sometimes, standing in the doorway of the empty apartment, her looking at me with that careful, measuring expression. The way she went still when I said 5 months up front. Something moved behind her eyes then. I know what it was now. The same thing I was already starting to feel standing there. Recognition. The kind you can't really explain. You just know it when it happens. She gave me a place to live. I paid up front because I needed her to trust me. Neither of us had any idea what we were actually starting. That's the thing about the moments that matter most. They almost never announce themselves. They just happen in ordinary doorways on ordinary mornings. And you either pay attention, or you don't. I'm glad I paid attention. I'm glad she did too. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. We post new stories every week. Real, slow, human ones. See you next time.